Hey there, it's Suzi here. I'm the CEO at HerBusiness. I'm also your host here on the show. And on this program, we typically talk about the things that it takes to run and scale a business, like systems or team or understanding your numbers or really knowing your ideal client or becoming really good at marketing. But today I want to turn the lens inward, because what I found time and time again is that the women who build genuinely successful businesses are not held back because they don't have the skill to grow their business or they don't have the right strategies. It's usually that they lack clarity. They don't know what they actually want for their business and for their life. And we spend so much time executing against someone else's definition of success that we lose touch with our own. But true leadership means authoring your own definition of success. And my guest today, whom I cannot wait for you to meet, has spent 30 years helping the world's most iconic brands get to the absolute essence of who they are and what they stand for. She's turned that same lens on how we live and lead our own lives. Her name is Bonnie Wan. She's a brand strategist, a life strategist, and she's the creator of The Life Brief, which is a fantastic book that I recommend that you get. And The Life Brief is actually a practice that applies the art of strategy to a creative brief, but to our lives, with clarity and creativity and courage. She's been named the Chief Strategy Officer of the Year, one of 100 women to know in America, and her book, The Life Brief, which I mentioned, is one that I completely absorbed and devoured. It is a bestseller, and this conversation is an invitation for you to stop managing your life from the outside in and start authoring it from the inside out. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Let's welcome Bonnie Wan. Bonnie, hi and welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and joy.
I am so excited for this conversation. I have been diving deeply into your book. It's dog-eared from start to finish, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but really want to talk about the beautiful work that you do. You've spent your career writing creative briefs for global brands, and then you turned your lens inward. Tell us what a life brief is. Life Brief is the name of the book as well. And why did you believe that we as individuals need a life brief just as much as a business might need its own brief?
Well, for those people out there who are familiar with it, the life brief is essentially a creative brief for your life. But for those who aren't familiar with creative briefs, what they really are the distillation down to the essence of what a company stands for, why it exists, and its boldest ambitions. And in life, I have found through both personal experience and now experience with helping many, many others, leaders, women, everyday people, that we can use that same level of atomic clarity, I call it, in all of our relationships. So there's not one life brief. I want to explain that because we can write a creative brief for any part of our life. But what a creative brief does is it distills into sharp, sticky, action-driving clarity what it is that we want, what matters most. And that allows us to align what we believe with what we want, with who we are, and how we show up.
And I love that you said that, because the women listening here, they're women business owners. They have a business, and they may also, as I found I related to in your book, also need to design their personal life, my relationship, or my well-being. And by having us create this brief in a way that you've done many, many times with clients, but turning the lens on ourselves, I found that I was able to get very clear, and I want to talk about clarity in a moment, on what I want for that part of my life. So for this, we're of course talking about how to become a better leader. But as you know, that's not just, this is how I run my team. There's so much more to how do I become the best leader of my life as well. And so we have women who are watching or listening who are highly capable. They're excellent at the execution, at the to-doing. But sometimes leadership and stepping into leadership and holding that role requires a different level of personal clarity about what they want. Can you speak to that point?
Yeah, it's such a good distinction between execution and vision, because great leaders have often risen up through fantastic craft or execution,
Mm.
being a
Mm.
superstar at the discipline or the focus that they've had. But once you step into leadership or you cross that threshold, people really look to you for clarity of vision, ambition, values, so that they can craft their own roadmaps to how they deliver on that organizational outcome. And, having spent 30 years on the brand strategy side, helping companies get crystal clear, that sharp, sticky, action driving clarity about who they are and their
Mm.
boldest ambition, the next step really was then to work with the leaders on, okay, if that is the organizational ambition, how do I harness all of my gifts, my superpowers, my talents to be in service of that ambition and to show up in a way that really intersects those two things, my personal purpose
Mm.
and gifts and strengths with that organizational vision. And no matter where you are in the organization, you can be at the top of the company. And if you're at the top of the company, that's where vision and values become so important, because they are the critical components to creating the conditions for everyone in the organization to show up with peak performance in service of peak outcomes. But
Mm.
really, every employee has the potential to get clear. And in fact, I see it as a leadership duty to help all of our
Yeah.
employees get clear. What's the 12 to 18-month window of how you bring your own unique and distinct strengths to that role that you've been hired to play?
Just that way of thinking about it is so leader oriented. It's that my team is not here to do the things. They're here to bring the very best of themselves, but only we as leaders can create that path for them through the clarity that we have and then the clarity that we help them get. And that's why I love that the life brief has us question, what is it that we want? What is it that I want to bring to this role? What is it that I want to bring to this role of leader? And you talk about this inside out idea, which is that so many businesses are built from the outside in, you say. So we're responding to expectations, team expectations, client expectations. We're responding to opportunities. We're responding often to pressure. What changes when a woman starts leading and living from the inside out instead? Could you explain the principle and how it relates to what I just said? It's like, how do we start leading differently?
Yeah, I'll start with the brand strategy side, because I think we can all understand that from a company perspective, right? When companies are chasing white space opportunity, or they're trying to copy a more successful competitor in their space, they end up blending in to that category,
Mm.
right? They become wallpaper. But when you are operating from the inside out, really understand the company's DNA, why it exists, and what makes it distinct in the world, why people choose them above all other choices, then you're operating from a place of a singular distinction and being standout and breakthrough. And what you're doing is cultivating something, a memorable relationship with the customers you want to bring into your business and to grow your business. And it's the same for people. When we start living against someone else's script for what success looks like, or if we start living according to external pressures, we will usually reach a moment in our lives where we feel empty or lost, and we've
Mhm.
lost connection to the fuel inside us, because there's a reason why we exist. There's a set of gifts that we have to bring into the world and into the business world as much as any other world. And we get to flex from the inside out all of our many different types of intelligence, powers, crafts, skills, and bring those to bear. And when we can do that, it brings forth faster outcomes. It brings forth a unique position and standing in our companies. It cultivates innovation and creativity that only we could bring to that, versus mirroring and mimicking what we see around us. And, women who are inside very male-dominated organizations, it's easy to fall into the pattern of celebrating intellect, authority, short-term gain, which men are very, very equipped at doing. But then women lose what makes them unique and special. Women excel at intuition, influence, or what I like to call relational power, predicting long-term impact and the ripples of consequences, and holding multiple truths at once, aka complexity, right? And when we're operating from the inside out, we have all of those superpowers at our disposal.
I could talk for hours just on this topic, because I think that I totally grasp the concept, but I think there's such conditioning to look at what's going on out there and not to inquire and
Yes.
to bring to the surface those things that are our strengths. And I go, oh, they're pricing their products and services that way, or their brand logo looks that way, or they're doing these types of offers. That's what they're offering. That's what I should be doing, rather than identifying that. And then again, that comes from inquiry and looking inward. And what I love about the book is that at the end of every chapter, as you're listening, there is an exercise to do that is an inquiry. And Bonnie goes deep. And then she asks you to identify what you call gripping issues are. Like, what are the things that are really not working in your business or your life? So it could be parts of your business. And she asks you, what is it that you want? And really identifying what is that biggest pain point. And one of the examples, Bonnie, that you give is that one of time. And that is one I hear all day, every day. I don't have time to I don't have time to delegate. I don't have time to run this business and see my kids or be at their soccer games. I don't have time to even have time for myself on the weekend. So that's one example. And there could be many, many others. But why is it important to really identify, really name what that tension is, that core tension is, that's keeping us from living a life we love and having a business that we just can't wait to work in every day?
Well, here's one of the benefits, immediate benefits of clarity. When you are clear about what matters most and what you want, what you truly want, it immediately helps you radically prioritize your time. It immediately separates what's worth giving time to and what is not. Where to say yes, where to say no, right? It's a clarifier. It's a knife that cuts through the confusion and the complexity. I talk about gripping issues, and what I mean by that is it's gripping your mind. So when you are not intentionally placing your attention or energy in a specific thing, like you're about to go to bed, boom, there it is. You're in the shower, boom, there it is. You're walking the dog, there it is. It comes up again. And these are our internal signals for what needs attention. The grip is a signal that, hey, this is a place that we need to go into. We need to lean into, and it might be uncomfortable, but it's calling for our attention. And that is our intuition speaking. That is what knowing is. I say there's knowledge, which are data, facts, the things we study. And then there's knowing, that intuitive wisdom that's always speaking to us. And it's our choice whether to listen to it or not. I tell people what I've learned in 16 years of this practice is that the answers we seek whether we're leaders or living our lives in any of the relationships that are important to us, the answers we seek lie behind the questions we avoid because they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
But that discomfort is a signal of growth, of something imperative, and of innovation and opportunity and possibility. So don't be afraid of the discomfort. It always brings a richer reward than the status quo.
I love what you're saying there about asking yourself what you're avoiding. You tell a great story. You say a lot about your personal life. So I'm not talking out of school here in the book. And there's one question that you were asked by someone else that you would probably have avoided if you could have. And you tell the story of being asked by your long-term partner, your husband.
My husband.
Yeah, whether you were still madly in love with him.
Yeah.
And it caught you off guard. You tell the story of like having to leave and go to work and sort of would have avoided thinking about that. But when you did, a lot changed. Now, there's the beautiful story in the book about how you navigated that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then I want to link that to leadership and business.
Yeah, I like to tell people that the life brief has saved my marriage not once, but twice. And this was the second time we had made a massive move from one state to another for my job. And we were living different lives. And we were, falling just further and further apart. He's the lead parent and I'm the sole breadwinner. And so those roles became magnified when we made this move. And in the middle of a everyday argument, he thrust the question on me, are you still madly in love with me? And, we like to be good students. So our brains will immediately go to the honest answer. And it came all the way up to the tip of my tongue, but I was smart enough not to let it out. But the answer was hell no. Instead, I deflected, and I'm very good like that on my feet. And I said, what do you mean mad love? What the hell is mad love anyways? Is that puppy love? Like, do people in their 40s have mad love after 4 kids? And I deflected so well that we moved on. But then I had to go on a business trip, 3 days of pitching new business and doing really well. But when I got on the 6-hour flight home, there were no deadlines. And the question surfaced again. And then I had to look at it in the face without avoidance. I couldn't avoid it up in the sky that high for 6 hours. So it was a terrifying question because I had to break it into more questions, sub questions. And the first one was, do I want mad love in my life? And that was a hell yes. That was so visceral. I was too young to park that, put it in a cubby and lock it up forever. I was too young not to experience the fire of desire for someone else or to be that, person of desire. That was easy. That was easier. The real question then became, do I want mad love with my husband? And that had to break down into more questions. And this is a practice of curiosity. This is what I invite for everyone. Get curious about your life. Instead of starting with answers, start with questions. And that's what I do as a strategist, always. But it had taken me a long time before I was able to meet my own life versus my work and my clients with the same level of curiosity. And so on that flight, when I asked myself, well, who am I when I'm with him versus who am I when I'm without him? I realized I like myself better when I'm with him. He makes me better. He makes me a better parent. He makes me a better citizen. He makes me a better woman. And the frustrations that I was feeling were really the ways that he challenged me and my own habits and my own um, denials. And he held me accountable for things that sometimes I didn't want to be held accountable for.
Mm.
He modeled a way of being in the world that I genuinely admired. So when I came down to the end of those questions, I realized, yes, I do want to fall
Mm.
madly in love with him again. But there was not a cell in my body that believed it was possible. Yet I wrote it anyways. And I call this practice of getting to your essential truth, getting to your essential, honest, nakedly honest desires and ambitions, an act of courage. Because the act is admitting to ourselves that that is what we really want
Mm.
without any guarantee of ever getting it. But that is the first step to
Mm.
walking a path that is true to you, true to your company, betting on yourself, betting on a bigger, higher possibility than if you just went with the execution and showed up to what's here right now. This is
Mm.
what it means to have bold, audacious visions for your life and your work and your company.
Thank you for so generously sharing that story and allowing us to see, like, it's not easy to declare what we want. It's much easier to be busy and, just go, well, sure, we were madly in love 40 years ago, but now, this is what people do. But to start a business and 20 years down, you're like, I'm really kind of done with this, but this is the only identity I have. Dare I even dream of having a business that lights me up every day, or doing the sort of work that brings me joy, or working less, or changing something? And so, to your point, it is an act of courage to just even ask that big question of, what do I really want in any area of your life? But I see women, Bonnie, who've been in business 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes with their partners, and they're like, I don't know who I am without this, so I won't even ask the question.
Yes, well, Anais Nin, I think, had the famous quote, many people prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. And I think that's why leaders
that.
are
I
few
love
and
it.
far between, right? It's easier
Mm.
to be a manager of the details, a manager of the now, a manager of what needs to happen right now, or a manager of the repeatable playbook than to own the big vision, to have the
Yeah.
big ambition. And I want to clarify that in life, especially in the culture and the society we are all living in right now, bold and big could look like slowing down, taking
Mm.
heat, being more intentional with our time, creating spaciousness, or allowing ourselves pause. So I don't want anyone here to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying go bigger or go home. I am
Mm.
saying boldly pursue what you know you want, what you need, what you've been longing for, what fuels you, and what nourishes you. Get nakedly honest about that. But that starts with curiosity, asking the question, and then the permission to meet that question with naked honesty.
Mm.
And it's not comfortable work. It's not for thin skins. And you do need an iron stomach to do this, but that's what leaders do. We step into the discomfort. If we don't, we can just step back and manage.
Right. Easier to manage, as you said. And what I love about the processes in the book is it's a very private inquiry. You're not writing things down or asking yourself to find answers to those questions because you're in a conference room and everyone's doing the same exercise. This is a personal process that you can be so real with yourself. And as you said, sometimes just getting it out that longing that's been there that you haven't been willing to, get out in any way, just sets you free.
Yes.
Sets you free to know that is what I want.
It's very liberating, and it is a private practice. So I invite you to be in deeper relationship with yourself. This is not about performance. This is not about writing or declaring for an audience. You are the audience for your own brief. And the courage is meeting yourself with that naked honesty, meeting yourself with the truth, and being in practice of doing that so that you can start distinguishing what is your voice from all the other voices you've collected along the way in your life. Your mom's voice, your voice, your best friend's voice, your partner's voice, right? We are all a peanut gallery of different voices, and different scripts and different measurements. Getting into this practice of hearing yourself and allowing yourself the permission to be honest starts to surface your voice from everyone else's.
And I believe it also allows you to see what really matters to you. And ultimately, that is who we are here to be happy. Like, what is it that really matters to you?
Yes.
Because what I've found is that many women that I am in contact with, they reach a point of achievement, often beyond what they ever thought even possible for themselves, for the type of money their businesses are generating or the impact that they're having. But the satisfaction is gone. And I think we're kind of circling back to something we've already talked about. But I want to just distill, how does a life brief help a leader really define what success means for them without burning everything down or losing everything she's built? Because I had a woman approach me, Bonnie, and she said, I've got a multi-million-dollar business. I've won all the awards. I find myself at 7:00 at night in fetal position under my desk crying way too often. I'm successful. I don't even need the money. I have inheritance. I have property. I don't need to be here, but I just don't know how to let go. There was a sense of failure in that. Could you make something of what I just said?
Well, I'm going to recommend another book that really explains it so much better. It's David Brooks, The Second Mountain. And he talks about there's the first mountain that we all are set off on. We're trained early on. It's a check the box, go to a prestigious university, get your education, you'll meet the person, you'll land yourself on a career path that is full of achievement. You'll capture the wealth that you deserve and that you can make, and you'll have children, and then you'll be happy. And that promise still exists for so many of us. But that is an external playbook. And what he describes, which is so beautiful, is that many people reach the peak of that first mountain and they wonder, wait a second, why do I still feel empty? Why am I feeling restless? Wasn't this supposed to deliver me this beautiful view and peace, inner peace? And it's not so much. And that's a consequence of living out someone else's script for what happiness or success or fulfillment or joy looks like. Because we're not practiced. We're not trained in those early ages to ask ourselves, what do we want? Or what's calling to us? No one's asking us the questions that help us connect to that voice that is within us, that we are all born with. The second mountain is the new journey. And not everyone finds themselves at the foothills of the second mountain. And this one has no map. It has no roadmap. You are going to carve your own path. But with every step, instead of ending your day with what I call wrung out empty, that's the, fetal position, right? Contracting, contorting. Instead, you're still exhausted at the end of the day. Neither mountain is an easy climb, but on the second mountain, you end the day with what I call soul-stirring satisfaction.
That sounds good.
You are also spent, but there's heart in there. You feel the fulfillment and the joy of having given your all to something you know is true. And a lot of people say to me, "Isn't this selfish work? You're just asking everyone to be incredibly self-centered." And I like to say there is a distinction between being self-centered, meaning centered in your truth, what you
Mm.
know, your wisdom, your intuition, versus being selfish. And every time I have peeled back the layers with women leaders, what is at the core of their self-centeredness is a desire to be of value, to do
Mhm.
something meaningful. And that usually includes people beyond them, themselves, and theirs. It's often, um, I don't want to sound like a magpie but I mean, there's so much spirit and heart for creating conditions for others to have positive lives. It's very rare. I don't think I've even met a woman leader
Mm.
or a woman, any woman who after peeling back the layers of the onion, they got to, I just want a Ferrari, an island, a house. That would make me super happy. Women are geared for relational impact.
Mm.
They are
But
geared towards belonging, connection, understanding. Are there ambitious women who want material things? Yes, 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 there are. And what gives them satisfaction and fulfillment is seeing that their work is having positive impact, that they are doing things that are innovative, creative, and in service.
That's certainly true for the women that are in our community. They come in and they want the marketing strategies because they want to get more sales. But when we go beneath the layers, it's always, I want to be of service, and I want to be at peace and I want to make a contribution and I want the nice car and I want it's both. It's
Yes,
both.
it's not either or.
Yeah.
It's not doesn't have to be a trade-off, and it
Mhm.
doesn't always have to be altruistic. Even if you want
Yeah.
to go and nail it as the salesperson, grow this company, to limits that it has never reached before, that is also fulfilling to know
Yeah.
that you have that capacity and the capability to do that you have the talent, the strategy, the chops, the creativity and innovation, and the relational power to bring a workforce along and to create something monumental in the world. Those are definite sources of joy and fulfillment.
Mhm. At Her Business, we have a tagline, which is your business, your rules. Talk to us a little bit about how the work that you do with women helps them to grow confident in doing business and life by their rules.
Well, the entire practice of what I call life strategy, right? That's this
Yeah.
life brief. It's a lifelong practice in self-authorship, in personal agency, and an addiction to aliveness. I don't believe in chasing happiness because in the Western world, we've equated happiness to comfort or material wealth or, you know, um, kind of, again, living to someone else's metrics of success. But aliveness is that we are constantly growing and seeing and relishing what we're capable of, which is often more than we ever imagined. Self authorship is about, again, being the author of your own life and not living someone else's script. And personal agency is seeing that you always have a choice. You can always choose what speaks to you, what feeds
Mm.
and fuels you versus performing for someone else.
In a moment, I'm going to give people details of where to get the book and learn about the other programs that are available for them so that they can work more deeply with you. Thank you so much for this conversation. Firstly, I love the book. I have a little bit to go to finish. I am so grateful for the introduction. We met through a mutual friend that we both adore.
Oh,
I want
Marie.
to... Cherie. I want to ask, is there anything that you would like to leave us with?
I think we've talked about it, so I'm going to echo it again.
Okay.
Start with curiosity. Give yourself permission to get curious about what you really want. Choose to author your life instead of living out someone else's script. And chase your goosebumps. Use joy as your compass.
Chase your goosebumps. I absolutely love that. When
Yeah.
I get goosebumps, I know I've hit the truth.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you
It is
mean.
visceral. You will know
Yeah.
when you have arrived at clarity of truth because you will feel it. Some of us get goosebumps, some of us get butterflies, some of us get slightly nauseous, right? I call it a podcast feeling, right? You know when you have hit that chord, struck that chord. And that's the place that'll never steer you wrong.
Bonnie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I love that conversation with Bonnie because here's the thing, conforming to others' expectations is something many of us have felt. I know I chased some external version of success for a lot of my business life, and I'm sure that's a very common thing. But once we can get over that and get clarity on what really matters to us and start to design businesses that are true to our heart's desire, it's a whole different life. And I would love to know what gives you goosebumps or what is an FES feeling that aligns with where you want to go in your business. Because, our tagline here on the show is your business, your rules. What would life look like and what would business look like if you created your business purely from what you want? What does it feel like? What are you doing? What does the day-to-day look like? Speaking that clarity aloud is so powerful, and having an environment, someone you can speak to about that, is so, so important. Now, I would love to hear what you have to say over on Instagram. You can direct message me over there, and I respond to every single comment or approach. So that's probably the best place. Or you can write to me at podcast@herbusiness.com. Or if you're a member of the Growth Network, we're having these conversations in there every day. If you don't know about the Growth Network, it is Australia's longest running business network for women business owners. We recently renamed ourselves from the HerBusiness Network to the Growth Network, but it's the same level of awesomeness. You can unlock lots and lots of fantastic resources and connections and help to get you to build your business by your rules. Now, the thing is, if you enjoyed this episode, you could do me a huge favor and also help so many other women simply by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you just want to let me know, you can send me a direct message on Instagram, or you can write to me at podcast@herbusiness.com. Now, on our website, I've put a link to Bonnie's book and Bonnie's website so that you can learn more about Bonnie, because she's freaking amazing. And you'll find all that information over at herbusiness.com/375. I'll also put links to any other resources that we've discussed. Now, if you're new to the show, welcome. Please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you're a regular, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know. And join us in the next episode, because we've got lots more inspiring stories and lessons from successful female entrepreneurs coming up. I'll see you next week right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.